would just be, you know, talking and stuff, but I thought maybe what I could do is share just a couple of little things with you, then Lori can go into some things with you, and then I'll come back and share a bunch of gruesome lawsuits with you. So if that's okay with you, that's how we're going to do it. I have entered my email address in the chat box so that you will always have access to me anytime, always. And I do welcome you and encourage you and invite you to please always call me, email me. Don't try to struggle through an explanation ever. That's just not wise. So the first thing I would like to share with you is this property ID in honor of Hispanic Heritage Month has launched Peligros Naturales en Español. Opa! Well, I'm Greek, I say opa, so I should say ole. So yes, property ID is the first and only natural hazard disclosure company to offer a multi-language natural hazard disclosure report. And, you know, we're so happy and proud to bring diversity to the products. Do know this, however, even though the report will be in Spanish as far as the natural hazard disclosure statement, your clients who want to receive the Spanish report must sign the English version. It'll come English and Spanish, but the Spanish version at the signature lines will have writing on it that says, do not sign this version, sign the English version. The reason for this is because the law is written in English. Therefore, you must sign the English version. The Spanish version is there as a little supplemental for our Spanish speaking real estate purchasers. All right, so if you want to see more on that, let me know and I will share with you a report. Very briefly on Assembly Bill 38 before Lori jumps into the report. If you would like, I will email you this document that is, I put this in your property ID reports 2 years ago. And what is this? This is a document, and you know, I'm old school. I don't like to share my screen because, you know, when I'm in meetings and Alejandro Diaz has a question, but just hang 1 second. When I'm in a meeting and people share their screens, I think, oh, I can take a nap now, yay. Okay, so don't take a nap when Lori is sharing the screen with you. So I'm just gonna kind of go old school here and just hold that paper. So I wrote this little summary on Assembly Bill 38, and I can email this to you. It's a 3-page document. It has, you know, the defensible space information, all the details about Assembly Bill 38, and the low-cost retrofit list, which is something that will be coming legally required eventually in a couple of years. But the reason why this is a nice little tool for you is it's a marketing tool. This is something that I would print out and keep in little envelopes in my handbag so that when I'm at the grocery store or I'm getting some coffee, and I see somebody I know, I'd be like, hey, did you know that there's this new fire retrofit law? I'm sure you've heard of it, but here's some details. I wanted to give it to you and make sure your business card is in it. You know, hey, you want to sell your house? You know, really handy little tool. I will email it to you if you enter your email address in the chat box or you email me. Yes, Heather, definitely. So it's very handy for you. It's also something that you can, some people don't, you know, you can put it in an envelope and mail it to your past clients. For those of your clients who don't like paper, you can email it to them. So it's super handy. It's colorful. It's beautiful. It's something to talk about that's relevant, and you can use it. Go, Alejandro Diaz.
Hi there. I have a question regarding the signing the Spanish version and the English. I'm new, for you to know, and I'm from Chile, and over there, we had to notarize everything. So when I have somebody sign the Spanish and the English, that needs to be notarized as well, or not in here in the state? No, everybody's shaking their head.
Good
No.
question. Excellent question, Alejandro. The property ID natural hazard disclosure report can be 90 to 100 pages. You don't want to notarize the whole thing. So what we've done is we've created one signature page, and that is the one page where you would have signed. And there's not really a place for it to be notarized. It's just a signature page. And the Spanish version that will accompany that, although we make extremely, the president of property ID is Latino, his name is Carlos. We make as fabulous as we can a translation. Sometimes words don't translate perfectly. And because the law is written in English, only the English version is what will be required to be signed. So that's it. Lori, if you will, please take it away about the report, and let me know when you want me to jump in anytime.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. And what happens to me when I share my screen is that it normally does not let me see what I'm sharing. So, are you seeing the report?
Yes, we are.
Perfect. I don't know why my computer decides to not show me what I'm sharing. So, okay. So AB38, I'm going to let Maylana explain the basics of AB38 because she does it much better than I do. If you want to just explain real quick about how AB38 started and, home hardening as far as how we need to show that on the form itself. And then I will talk directly about the defensible space.
Okay, fantastic. So if you can, maybe stop sharing your screen, just because
Okay.
I can't click on.
Okay, sorry, I got ahead of myself.
That's okay. But I'll share with you my own. Okay, so let me just start out by saying that Assembly Bill 38 is, I'll tell you the easiest way for me to explain it. It's like a crossword puzzle written in Greek. And I'm fluent in Greek, but I have never endeavored to, nor will I ever endeavor to do a crossword puzzle in Greek, because it's like I would want to rip my hair out. It's a very complicated, if then this, then that, then, go here and then cross here and then do this. It's really complicated. So what what Property ID has attempted to do here is, where is it? Let me see, but you can see my screen. What we've done, I'm just going to share there we go. Okay, so what we've done in the Property ID report to make your life easier is this is a Property ID report for Hillsborough Circle in Santa Rosa. And when you go to the fire, you will see that this property is not in a very high fire hazard severity zone, according to the state, but according to the city, it is in a wildland urban interface. Lori is going to talk more about this in detail because of the fact that this is a gray area. And even though Assembly Bill 38 is pretty clear that when a property is in high fire or very high fire, seller must disclose additional things about the structure and the condition of the property as far as, what has been done to harden the home against fire and what has been done to maintain defensible space. But the city of Santa Rosa has its own little ordinance here, and I have put it here in that the city of Santa Rosa has come out and said, if you are in a wildland urban interface, according to the city, then we are requiring you to comply with Assembly Bill 38. So this is kind of, I have to tell you, the city of Santa Rosa is kind of the only city that's really gone out on a limb and done this. And so people are just a little bit confused about how to handle this scenario. But what Property ID has done in order to help you, and by the way, I'm sorry, I'm clicking too fast through this. And if somebody is getting seasick or wants me to step back or explain something further, please speak up and say, hey, you're clicking around way too fast, sister, and I will slow down. So for this particular property on Hillsborough Circle in Santa Rosa, this property, as you can see, we have put very high fire hazard severity zone, yes, on the natural hazard disclosure statement, specifically because this property is in the city of Santa Rosa's wildland urban interface. So, it's kind of like, oh my goodness, what do we do here? But because we're following what the city of Santa Rosa says, we have to go that route. So when you go down to the form, you'll see that this is, it's almost exactly word for word the CAR form, because of the fact that it is taken from the language of the law. You do not need to use the Property ID fire form. You don't. You can. It's far sexier than the CAR form. I think so.
And by the way, your office allows you to use this form.
Yeah.
in our Property ID report. I just wanted to share that.
Yeah. So it's it's up to you guys. But it's one thing that's very exciting about this form is you can schedule by clicking right here an inspection with CAL FIRE. We actually have throughout the form links to the law so that, if you find yourself unable to sleep tonight, and it's a burning question at 3:30 in the morning because you're having a hot flash like I am, what does government code section 51182 have to say to me? In all its glory, there it is. All you have to do is click on it from the form and you will be asleep in no time, I assure you. Also, we have put right here the City of Santa Rosa Weed Abatement Ordinance and Defensible Space Standards right at your fingertips, so that you can see, what does it say? It says clean up the crap. That's what it says. Clean up the crap. It's got further discussion here about specifically the City of Santa Rosa and Assembly Bill 38 compliance. There's phone numbers here. Even if you click on it, you can call directly from your phone. It's got links to help you, and you can go right back to the form right there, as you can see. So, Lori, go ahead, take it away, my girl. What more you have to say?
Of course, my dog started to bark at the same time, but that's okay. We're going to ignore them. I'm going to ignore them. All right. So AB38 basically came out in 2019 is when they first started, when AB38 was became the Assembly Bill 38 actually was written and came into law. And we, of course, have been putting this in our report this whole time. We've been putting this stuff in our report for what, 20 years. So anyway, Assembly Bill 38 unfortunately was kind of put together by Jim Wood's interns. So that kind of gives you an idea of why it was put together the way it is. This particular law came up with 3 different sections for compliance. And basically what it is it's a bill that was put in place basically to put the responsibility on local governments per se to actually put a point of sale on fire safety, which is kind of the gist of this Assembly bill. So those 3 sections are, as of January 1, the HHDA, which was the home hardening portion, came into play. Now, the home hardening basically is if your home is in a high or very high fire hazard zone, was built prior to 2010, then you need to have your seller complete the home hardening disclosure form, which now has become the FHDS form. That home hardening basically is one of your 6 mandatory disclosures. And I don't know if you guys remember what those 6 mandatory disclosures are, but it is your NHD, your TDS, your SPQ, lead-based paint, disclosure booklets, and now the FHDS form. So the fun thing that CAR did, and with putting this form together is they actually took 2 different situations and put them on the same form. So you have the home hardening that was initiated January 1 that has your seller disclosing home hardening items to the home, and basically it's if they are not done, they want you to check mark it. So if you don't have vents on your, if your vents aren't 1/8 of an inch or less, or if you don't have grids on your gutters and so on and so forth, is the home hardening portion of it. So then on July 1st came the defensible space. And like I said, they put both of these on the same form, but both of them really are completely different sections, different items altogether, which is, I feel, has made a lot of confusion for realtors in the fact that it really is 2 separate issues. They all have to deal with fire, but they both have very different specific identities. So with the defensible space portion of it, that has to deal with your 100-foot parameter around your home and having and creating a defensible space that will hopefully deter any, or help with a situation if there's a fire in the area. They found that homes that have obviously the home hardening features and the defensible space parameter are less likely to, burn up versus a house that does not have those things. So with the defensible space,
Good question, Lori. You know that?
no, I didn't. I'm sorry.
Mara's got a question.
Sure.
Mara?
Hi, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was muted. So if you live in a home that is, 0 lot line or not a large space on side of each home, and somebody within 100 feet of your home is doing something that makes their home not defensible, how do you deal with that?
That is a great question. Go ahead, Maylana.
Well, thank you. So you want to stop sharing?
Sure.
Because, the screen share is just such a wonderful opportunity to take a nap. So thank you for that excellent question. You are responsible for you and your property. If there is somebody 100 feet away, they are responsible for their property. there are going to be certain circumstances in which the area is very rural, where the state fire marshal will sometimes enter into a contract with the owner of the property to go a little bit beyond the owner, the property line, and do a little bit of clearance. That does happen sometimes. But if, and I mean, I don't want to be a jerk, but I mean, if you've got somebody who is near your property who is very much not in compliance, and that neighbor is with their failure to comply with the law is bringing your property into risk of fire hazard, you can call the city. And I will share with you a recent experience that I had. I got a certified letter, a little nasty gram, from the police department from the city in which I live. And this officer wrote me a letter here, and he basically told me that I have an offensive tree that needs to be removed because it is a fire hazard in violation of my city's ordinance. And he even enclosed a photograph of said offensive tree and informed me that it needs removal. Toot sweet, okay? And of course, he also finally enclosed, you know, the law that says, clean that crap up, sister. So I
Can
called,
I just ask a further question? If you live in a homeowner in HOA, my home to be specific, and I have a stand of trees owned by the HOA, not by me, but they overhang my home. And is an HOA responsible to do the gutter stuff and to do the eave stuff if they maintain the exterior?
well, I'm sure that's going to depend on what the HOA agreements and documents and disclosures are.
I have no ability to do anything to the exterior of my home. So what I'm asking is, if is the HOA therefore responsible to harden the building?
That I can't answer that question because it really depends on what the HOA, I mean, I would love to say, yes, it's their responsibility, but I'd have to read and by the way, let me just tell you, I have friends that are lawyers that deal with HOA, and they don't even know the answers to these questions because they're so complicated. So I can't answer your question. What I can say is that what I would do if I were you is I would send an email to the HOA and state, you know, please be advised that there are trees that need trimming. There is a law in place pursuant to Assembly Bill 38 that requires that all of us retrofit our residences in order to comply with the new fire safety standards. Therefore, I am requesting that you trim these trees back in order to make sure that no tree is overhanging on any chimney or that, you know, whatever it is that needs to be abated. You know, so that's what I would do. So let's see what they have to say about that. But anyway, the point is this, there is so much confusion. The last thing you want to do is try to stumble through explanations of this. And by the way, the property ID report and the property ID fire form are the only ones that come with a lawyer to explain it to your clients so you don't have to. Property ID has been doing fire hazard disclosures for 45 years. I have been its lawyer for 23 years. So we are definitely the most qualified to explain this to your clients. The question I'm getting right now, number one, from agents is this: my seller doesn't want to complete the form. And as you can, and I'm getting calls, I'm getting texts, I'm getting emails. What do I tell my seller, Maylana? The property is located at 1313 Mockingbird Lane. I have your property ID report. It says the property is in very high fire. Seller refuses to complete the form. In the event you come up against that, what I invite you to do is to send me an email and CC your seller. Hello, Maylana. My seller, Sam, is CC'd on this email. Sam is very concerned about the completion of the fire hazard form in your report. Can you please provide clarification about seller completing this form? So you will get that will be a notification to me. Agent Alex needs help with seller Sam. So that is where I will write an email to you. Hello, Alex and Sam. Thank you for your inquiry. The law is here. It's clear. These since this property is located in a very high fire hazard severity zone, seller is legally required to complete this form. Also, this form, like the TDS, like the natural hazard disclosure statement, comes with a 5-day right to terminate the contract. So I'm sure seller Sam would understand that seller Sam failure to complete this form would open seller Sam to having a buyer walk away from this deal 2 days before the close of escrow, wasting seller Sam's time and possibly losing that window of the market value of the property, you know, and having it be over now after 30 days. So so that's something that I do welcome, and I encourage you to do whenever you do need help with that. So do you guys have any more questions about fire? Can we move on, or do we need more? Because if we need more, I'm here for you. And by the way, if something comes up later, ask it, by the way.
I'm going to actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to finish up with fire.
Oh,
Yeah, thanks.
do it, girl. Yes.
Okay, so I was just trying to kind of go through the, I didn't want to skip through the fire hardening or, which I'll pull up this form, which shows the different, this right here shows the features that are for the home hardening. Now, I know that most of you should feel pretty comfortable with the home hardening at this point. We've been doing it for 9 months, hopefully. And the thing that gets really confusing again on this form is the fact that not only do you have the home hardening that is only for homes that were built prior to 2010, now you have defensible space, and defensible space, sorry, I'm scrolling. Defensible space has to do with any home in a high or a very high fire hazard zone. So that in itself makes it a little confusing. Plus the fact that they are very separate issues. And I can tell you, when we talk about overhanging trees, my neighbor's trees, every single one of them overhang my house. I went out and bought a pole saw. Now, have I gotten out there and done it yet? No, because like I have a hurt ankle, I burned my eyelid. Like I think I need to stay away from anything that could literally rip my limbs off. So eventually we'll get there, but you know, I mean, just the fact that, you know, being hyper aware of foliage overhanging on anything. And, you know, my house is very old, so it is a little scary. But I wanted to basically, I'm going to step back a minute, and I want to share a little bit about how we are, how Property ID has come up with this digital report. I don't know if a lot of you have seen it, but this is amazing. Like I can't even look at a regular report now. If you, you know, like Maylana said, our reports can be up to 90 pages. So when you have a report that's that big, you want to be able to give this to your client and for them to have the ability to get through this in a real easy way. So the way that we have done this report is the fact that one, it is digital, but second, it's in sections now. So it's really super easy for your client to be able to go directly to what they're looking for. You know, we've been talking about AB38, and so and I want to just show you what I would do if I was to receive this report as an agent, because typically you guys are getting your NHD reports now before you're even getting the listing, because you want to know, is it in a high or a very high fire hazard zone? So when you receive this report, this is what I would do. The first thing is I would go to your forms section and I would view your forms and I would look at your natural hazard disclosure statement to see if anything is potentially in one of those mandatory, disclosure areas. This particular one is in a very high fire hazard severity zone. Okay, so the second thing I would do is I would go to, once you know that it's in a high fire area, I would go to your fire safety, home hardening, and defensible space form. The reason I'm going to say that to you is because of what Maylana touched on earlier, which is AB38 is not black and white. There are many variables to it. There are many unknowns and questions and gray area. We in Santa Rosa have a very specific gray area, which is we do have a city ordinance that specifically says that you need to comply with AB38. It even lists out that you'll need to have an inspection, that you need to bring it, that it needs to be compliant with AB38. However, the way that CAR sees this is that only the director of the California Department of Forestry and their map, which is the CAL FIRE map, is applicable to AB38. So what we've done to protect you, to also disclose to your clients is, and Maylana has done this, is on your fire safety form, which is one of the things that I love about this, is we have 3 different sections here that could, in fact, one of these sections is going to be applicable to this property. Well, we know that this is in a high fire area, this particular property. This property is in a high fire area according to the city, according to the local map. So what we've done is we've check marked the box that says that the subject property is not located in a California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection's official high or very high fire hazard severity zone, meaning it's not on the CAL FIRE map. However, it does show in a high fire area. And what it says is the seller may wish to complete this form as an advisory and voluntarily disclose. So we've done that so that we stay in compliance with how CAR is saying you should provide AB38. However, your local ordinance, your city ordinance says very clearly that if a property is in that WUI area, wildland urban interface, that it does need to comply with AB38. So I'm giving you the information. How you choose to move forward with that information is up to you. But to me, when I see a local ordinance that says very specifically that it's in a high fire area and it needs to comply, I would be concerned, because Santa Rosa has a lottery every year where they pick 2,000 homes to do inspections on. If this happens to be one of those homes they choose to do an inspection on, and they don't have a property ID report that shows them that they in a local area, it shows a high fire area with a city ordinance that says that you need to comply with AB38, that buyer is going to be pissed off when they find out that they are liable for not only the inspection and having the inspection completed, but what if there's thousands of dollars of work that needs to be done in order to create the defensible space that needs to be, that is required. This could be a huge problem for somebody. So it's really important you understand how this information is compiled and why it's in here the way it is, and just how important it is for your clients. And the fact that because natural hazard disclosure reports are not they are not it's not a regulated industry. Every NHD report is different, and a lot of NHD reports, probably all of the other ones, are not even putting the local area maps or this type of information in their report. That's scary. And I've seen the reports where they don't even put this in there. They don't even show that it's in a high fire when your local ordinance is saying it is. So, so that's kind of the big gist of how AB38, why it's so confusing and why there's so much gray area, and the fact that not everybody is in agreement with how we should move forward with disclosing or complying with AB38. But I want to show you that from here on this form, when you go to the fire section, this fire section, it's important that when you're looking at the fire section, that you're also, you're looking like this says it's in the wild urban interface city. So you know that this is in a local responsibility area. It's not state responsibility. So, and that means you want to look at your, your local ordinances to see what it is that you need to comply with. Now, with the city of Santa Rosa WUI area, I love that word, WUI, wildland urban interface. We also have the link for the actual ordinance itself. And there's a phone number there where you can call, or you can a map that you can put the address in, and it'll show you if you're in that required area to have an inspection. But know that just because it says in on that statutory form or not in, doesn't mean that you shouldn't be looking at the summary. You still need to look at the summary, because remember, there is a lot of different maps and different locations that this information is derived from. It's and it can be different. So it's important that you do look at the summary page as well, not just that one page. And I know that that's, I know it takes an extra little bit of time, but it's also going to be really helpful for you for understanding exactly the information that you're giving to your clients. And also for your clients to understand, that way you can say, when you get to that next box on the defensible space disclosure, actually they're considering that portion an addendum, right, Heather? The top part's a disclosure, the second part is considered an addendum. And I can go back to,
Sure.
okay. Well, I remember Gov saying that, which I thought was interesting. Again, just shows the separation of how different both of those sections are. Let me go back to that form again.
Yeah, it is called a disclosure and addendum. So it's, yeah.
It's very complicated, like I said, and
Yeah.
that's the reasons I love the one that Maylana put together, because it's so much easier to read. And as far as defensible space disclosure goes, let me just shoot down here to the second page of this. This is where you have the 4 different boxes, and you do need to know, is it in a local area or is it in a state responsibility area? Because that is going to make a difference in how you check the box on the defensible space. Now, I know that the onus basically goes onto the buyer, the way that it's, and Maylana, this is a part I would love to have you explain, because I don't want to say this incorrectly, but about the responsibility. Do you want me to keep this on here so you can go through the check boxes?
Sure, that's fine. Okay, so your seller is required to check one of these 4 boxes. 1, A or B, or 2, A or B. Number 1 says, this property is located in an area where local defensible space and vegetation management ordinances, now this is where you wake up here, require the owner of the property to provide documentation stating that the property is in compliance. So where you, if, I mean, I haven't looked at the city of Santa Rosa's ordinance today, but my understanding is at this point, and Lori, please correct me if I'm wrong, it says clean the crap, but it doesn't say you are required to get a document, which I'm calling a unicorn, confirming that you have in fact cleared the crap, right? So this is where I think it's very easy for you, if you want to tell your seller, you can check 2A. What does number 2 say? Number 2 says this property is located in an area that has not enacted an ordinance, and wake up, requiring the owner of the property to obtain the unicorn. Okay, so that's what the nuances here. So almost every county in the state of California, with the exception of San Francisco, says clean up the crap. But in my experience to this point today, I have not yet encountered an ordinance that says, as an owner of real estate in this county, you are required to obtain the unicorn document that confirms you have cleaned the crap. I haven't seen it. So that's the trick here. And that's why it's easy to tell your seller, you can check 2A. Buyer agrees to obtain defensible space compliance documentation, that unicorn, within 1 year from the close of escrow. So as I shared with you earlier, I got this nasty letter from the police, certified, a certified letter that's telling me trim the tree. And he was kind enough to, and by the way, I called him up and I said, my arborist is coming on Wednesday. My arborist has confirmed that in fact, my tree is not dead, Officer Comley, with all due respect. My arborist has in fact informed me that my tree is sleeping, it's not in season, and that we can trim the tree. And he said, well, you know, I'm sure your arborist is more knowledgeable than I in the condition of your tree. When is he coming? I said, he's coming Wednesday. He said, okay, I'll come by and take a look sometime after that. Sure enough, Officer Comley showed up. He got out of his car. He came and he inspected that in fact my tree was trimmed, but he did not give me a unicorn. He did not say, here you are. I still haven't received anything in the mail. He didn't put anything in my mailbox. He didn't come and knock on my door and say, yes, good job. Here's your unicorn. I got nothing. So these unicorns are hard to come by. I see that Mara has her hand up, Eric has a hand up, and Julie has a hand up.
Mara, you want to go first?
I think Mara asked the question, but didn't take the hand down. So Eric, you go.
On the primary disclosure page with the signature required in the natural hazard report, it talks about very high fire danger. Am I correct? It does not talk about high fire danger?
Well, that's an excellent question. And
Well, just the other part of the question is where specifically does it tell us that the property is in a high fire danger? I understand very high, but I don't see high fire danger being disclosed in the report.
it is actually. Do you want to talk about that, Lori? Well, here, I'll tell you what I did. And I'm going to have to find one for you. I put that right on the natural hazard disclosure statement. Let me find one for you. It might not be.
I have one.
A Santa. Oh, you do? Okay, good. Fantastic. I'll stop sharing. You go ahead, do it.
Okay.
So what I did was write on the natural hazard disclosure statement itself, when the property is in a high fire zone, but not very high. Do you see that, Eric? For this particular property in St. Helena, it says very high fire hazard severity zone, no, but is located in a high fire severity zone, refer to report. The reason, and by the way, if you were to go to California Civil Code Section 1103.2, you would not see that language in the law. And yeah, I did violate the law, and I welcome anybody who is offended by this. Please report me to the California legislature, but come visit me in jail. I did violate the law because of the fact that the law and the form beg to be violated. So in order to make it easy for you, I put that language right there for you. So it's very easy for you to see. You know, but as you can see on this page, it says refer to report after the flood, refer to report after the dam, refer to report, refer to report, refer to report. It repeatedly says refer to report. That also does not appear on California Civil Code Section 1103.2. And the reason why I put that in there is because perhaps 10 years ago, I had a buyer who called me and said, you know, hi, I bought my house. I closed escrow like 2 months ago, and I only got this one page, the page I signed. And I couldn't believe it. I said, oh, okay. What are you calling me for? And she said, well, can you send me the rest of the report? And I'm like, okay, sure. So I did. I sent her the rest of the report. And then that afternoon, I added refer to report repeatedly, almost 20 times on this natural hazard disclosure statement, because I never wanted a buyer to feel that, oh my gosh, this is it. So that the next time a buyer called and said, I only got the one page, I asked her, do you have that one page in front of you? She said, I do. And I said, do you see that it says refer to report about 20 times above your signature? And she said, yeah. And I said, do you typically sign documents that are very clearly informing you almost 20 times that you need to refer to something other than this page? And so that was, you know, the end of that. So that's why I did that.
I do have a follow-up question.
Please go, Eric.
Okay, you said now that it's not, you said it under the very high fire hazard severity zone, you've clicked no, and then it says but is located. Is that an optional statement? You only add that when it is in a high one? It's not boilerplate?
Hold on, I'm sorry. I have to decline. There was a call coming for me. Sorry, in my
Your sentence that says but is located in a high fire zone, is that added or is that boilerplate?
No, that it only happens when the property, so you won't see that language that but is located. You will never see that language when the property is not in either high or very high. You will
Thank you. That answers the question.
and you won't see that language when the property is in very high only. I mean, or you know, because it'll be either yes, or it'll be no, or it'll be but is located in high. So if it's, yeah, it won't even come up if it's not an issue.
Understood.
Yes. One more thing that AB 38 just quite didn't cover, because the form itself only covers very high. However, the AB 38 covers high and very high.
Yes, that's why
Julie?
the form begs to be violated.
Oh, Julie Etchell has a question.
Okay, I have to apologize because I actually have 3. I hope we have time for 3 questions. Is that okay?
Of course.
Okay, great. So I have been out of real estate for the last year, so this is totally new for me going over all of this. Is there an occasion where you would have a home that is in, that you would answer the home hardening portion, but you would not answer the defensible space, or vice versa?
Okay, so this document that I will email to you breaks down the law. And it, you know, there are situations in which, you know, that's like, in the event the home is not in very high fire, not in high fire, and when this doesn't even apply. But there will be circumstances where it says, you know, you pretty much remember this. wherever the TDS is required, this form is also required when the property is in very high or high fire. There is going to be a circumstance that says if the home was built after 2010, then there are other exemptions that apply. And when I send this to you, all your answers will be right here. It's so, I've made it easy to answer. I mean, easy to understand.
And
Okay.
I'll just make a quick comment as well. Our standard with Better Homes that Gary just wants this disclosure included on all homes. So it's going to be in every file. So that makes it easy. You don't have to decide, and then
Yeah.
it just has to be answered correctly.
Perfect. Is the ordinance requiring fire safety and home hardening, is that a point of sale requirement, or does that need to be completed on these like 2,000 homes they draw from the lottery every year to go review? Does that need to be completed even if someone is not selling their home and they just need to be like following the law?
Well, that's an excellent question. My understanding of Assembly Bill 38 is that the California legislature put the cart before the horse. So as I shared with you earlier, where we have those, where the seller is going to have to check one of the 4 boxes, it's clear that the intent is that eventually every local jurisdiction will amend their ordinance to require, so as I shared with you, the officer that came and visited me, I'm not planning to sell my house. So I don't need that unicorn. But eventually, everybody is going to have to be in compliance, and it's something that we should be doing anyway. We really should be clearing the crap from the property. The reason why there is this quote unquote point of sale that's being thrown around now is because that is the point upon which there's a power play, right? So when you're representing a buyer, you can say, well, this seller's got piles of crap all over this property, which my understanding is not in compliance with the new fire retrofit law. Therefore, we are in a position, buyer, to either ask seller, clean this up so you don't have to do it, or maybe give a credit in the price of the home so that, you as the buyer will have to do it. So it's not really of a point of sale, in my opinion. It's more of a point at which negotiation can take place in order to bring compliance and awareness of the need to engage in actively protecting our home and our community from this very real threat that happens every year.
Yeah.
And besides the fact that you're dealing with a local ordinance that is in place, whether AB 38 exists or not, whether you're selling your home or not, we have those local ordinances in place. And for me, it's great for my neighbors. I can say, look, get this stuff out of here. Do you see this? This is our local ordinance. Get it out of here.
Yeah, and this is the nice thing. You can print it off, put it in an envelope, and drop it off in the mailboxes of your neighbors. Like, hey, you got to be doing this crap. Come on,
Yeah.
clean it up.
And obviously, we all want to protect our properties. I mean, that's the state of California isn't in trouble as far as fire is concerned. We all want to do our part. And I think if nothing else, like looking at the positive side of all this, is it's an awful lot of awareness of things that we can do to help protect ourselves.
Yeah. Okay, so my third question is, if the seller has checked that it is up to the buyer to complete these updates within a year of close of escrow, and we're representing the buyer maybe in this situation, one, do we have any liability from it as a party to the transaction at some point along the line? And two, who are the people that follow up and make sure that that has been done? And then does the buyer have any ill consequences if they don't do that? by the year?
Okay, first of all, I will eat a Smartie in your honor, Julie, because you are the Smarty Pants excellent question person of the day. So pretty much as far as whether you will have liability, that's I can't answer that question because it really is going to depend on the way in which you conduct yourself in the transaction. So, you know, who knows? Hopefully the answer is no. But is somebody going to come around and knock on the door of the buyer in 1 year? I'm going to say probably no. I have 3 bills that are in the California legislature right now that I am watching very carefully because of the fact that they all have to do with fire retrofit. They are taking where we are and going further. Is that a good thing? I don't know. We'll see. But so far, I have not found, Julie, with your excellent question, in any of these 3 bills, and for those of you my age, remember, I'm just a bill. I'm only a bill. I'm sitting on Capitol Hill. None of these may pass, but none of these right now say we must look at the county records of people who have closed escrow in 2021, and we must go back to those buyers and confirm that they have in fact cleaned the crap. There's no obligation here. So hopefully, no, there is no liability, and no, there is no mechanism in place today where somebody is going to go back to the buyer. And I mean, it's really ridiculous. Buyer and seller have to agree that buyer is going to obtain documentation. Who's checking? Certainly not seller. I'm sure none of you are going to be doing this. I'm not doing it. You know, so good questions.
So
Very
it's kind of a bill without much teeth, sounds like.
No, it needs braces. It needs a lot of work. It needs tons of work. And remember too, they don't have to comply with bringing these home hardening things up to code or up to the standard. They're just disclosing whether or not they exist. So in 2025, we may in fact see where they say, hey, this stuff needs to be done. That was the third part of this. Okay. And who knows what's going to happen before 2025. This thing could, these teeth could end up in somebody else's mouth. We don't know. I mean, it's like, who knows? We don't know where it's going. So, but those are great things to think about. And one more thing I want to say is, you're right. There may not be any consequences or any, there's not going to be anybody coming knocking on their door, say, did you comply? Did you comply? But remember, there is that lottery, and there is that, and if it's in a high or a very high fire area that's in the local area, okay, in the city ordinance, they could in fact be a part of that lottery and be one of those people that has to do an inspection. Now that's where there could be some kind of, if they didn't have a property ID report and it wasn't disclosed to them that they were in a high fire area, that was in that WUI area, right? They could have some monetary consequences with respect to bringing it into compliance and doing the inspection and making sure it's in compliance, right? So there's the natural consequences of sorts based on the local ordinances that already exist that have nothing to do with AB38. So.
Cool.
we didn't get to talk about any lawsuits. Maybe next time.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
Yeah.
It's such a big subject and so many things to cover. Really appreciate you guys and everybody on the call. Just know Gary's going to touch on October 1st. Our regular contract training, he's going to touch on this a little more and what our, inside company standards of practice are, and go over the CAR form for this as well, the FHDS. But any other questions for Lori and Meilana or It looks like we've got all the questions covered. I thank you two so much for coming and helping us understand this very complex and ever-changing situation. Oh, it looks like Eric maybe does have another question.
Okay.
Yes, what are the odds of creating another category on your main signature page that says high fire danger? Because quite honestly, I've always looked at that report and it says not in a very high fire danger area. And I don't read the small print underneath it that says, but if you read carefully, you could be in a high fire zone.
Okay, so the natural hazard disclosure statement is if you were to right now jump on your computer and search California Civil Code Section 1103.2, that is just like the TDS. It is language written by the California legislature. So they have to change the form. I have tweaked it a little bit for you, but I can't like add another line. I added basically a supplemental parenthetical sentence to help you. But as far as adding another line to it, I in all good conscience, I can't do that. The California legislature is going to have to do that.
Yes.
That would
So
be nice.
let's write to the legislators and tell them to change it.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. Thank you two for coming. Thanks everybody for joining us today.
Thank
You got Maylana's email there, and she's going, I've asked her to send me that wonderful document, and then I will forward that out to everybody. So you'll have access to that. So thanks, you guys.
Always have access to me. Any questions?
Always
please.
call Lori.
And me.
Yeah,
Thank-
awesome. And Maylana.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you, everybody. It was
All
great.
right.
It was great to see you.
Thanks,
Have a fabulous
everybody.
weekend
You too. Bye-bye.
for having
Thank
us. Bye.
you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Lori. Bye.
Thank you.